Hey guys, I hope you can excuse my dreary tone yesterday. I don't know what came over me. I was in a good. Well, that could have been a problem. I should probably do a new setup for that. But yeah, no, back to the subject at hand. I felt like I was sleepwalking all day yesterday, but so be it. I promised 13 episodes before New Year, so the show goes on. Sorry to put out a bit of a doozy on Christmas. Like I like the episode. I just I like being more upbeat than that. I just when the energy's not there, it's just not there. I can't fake it. I just can't fake it. You can only fake it so long, so it's not really sustainable. But not that I've been faking it for you guys. I just mean like I want this to be fun, so I'm gonna keep it fun for me and hopefully for you guys as well. But today's subject is science, and I'm gonna be upfront with you. This one will probably be the hardest for me to teach you because I just always loved it, and I know like I don't know like ever since COVID, like people were like, oh, let's villainize the word science. Like there's people saying like science. Like they're like somehow liking science like makes you like a beta male or something like that. And I'm not throwing in my opinion on COVID yet because it's pointless. Who cares? Everybody threw in their point. Their what like everything that could be said about COVID has been said. So like what like what am I really gonna? At this point, it's just checking people. It's just like Gestapo actions on both sides to see who agrees with who. So I think like the whole vaccine conversation isn't even genuine. I think that's like something that like people do to tribalize. So like I don't care, and if you care, maybe think about why you care. But anyway, I'm not telling you what to do. When I was 14, I was obsessed with science, and I mentioned in the last video that it really was like science fiction media that pushed me in that direction. Namely Fallout and Mass Effect, and then just I had like nerdy friends that were way smarter with computers than I was as well. And just kind of in the same way that I'm comparing Fallout skills to real life now, at age like 11, 12, 13, with a Serbian friend of mine who was far more adept with computers than I was always like, yeah, maybe you'll be a medicine main one day, but I'm always going to be the science main. And I don't know how he's doing these days. Things got a little weird there, and I had to cut it off. But I was growing up. That was like a lot of my inspiration was like seeing someone my age or just a little bit slightly older be able to do all these things on a computer. My dad didn't know anything about computers, so no one taught me. So like, I remember I got to ninth grade and like they were like copy and paste a link, and I'm like, what's that? Like, I have a weird history with computers. Like, I looked up cheat codes on Cheat CC when I was like 9 years old, and we had dial up, and this is probably 2006 maybe. And I remember looking up cheat codes for like Tony Hawk games, things like that, or like whatever like fighting games my cousin brought over. I just like messing with the cheat codes more so than I liked even playing new games. Like my cousin brought over San Andreas in his PlayStation 2 once, and I was like, this has got to have cheat codes. Let's look them up. And people would get mad at me, but like as like a 10-year-old, that was just like, well, I just want to know what the game can do. To me, it wasn't even about the game or like playing it legit. It was me exploring a new world in there. And that's still what I like about gaming now. That's why I'm a bad gamer. Because I don't really respect the game. I just like getting in a new dimension to explore. Like, and not to say that I've never enjoyed gameplay. Like, geez, since I made this channel, I don't believe I've really played War Thunder. I may have played it like once or twice, but honestly, this has kind of been my new like free time occupation. So I haven't really been gaming. But my favorite games are ones where it's just like, just let me loose in an open world and let me do what I want. Morrowind, really anything. When I was a little kid too, I had a bit more of like a broader definition of that. Like I thought Mass Effect was open world when it clearly it isn't. You just kind of go between set pieces. But like as a kid, that was exploration. So that's what I like about games. Um, but and I guess that translates to science. So I guess when it's come to computers, I've never really been fascinated with computers. Only what can they do? I've never been like, oh, I mean, I know this sounds silly, especially if you like know anything about coding. I tried to get into coding as a teenager. I was like teaching myself off of wikis, and I made like a really bad calculator. Is all I ever got. But I once had aspirations of making my own video game. But yeah, I spent my 18th birthday writing code on a piece of loose leaf paper because I don't know. Like I said, I got sporadic flights of fancy. And 10 years ago, I decided I was going to be a coder for that day only. And I don't think I've ever touched the subject since. So I'm not a science main, definitely not a computer hacker science type. But that's what bothers me about the Fallout science skill is that it's computer genius. It's like Matrix stuff. It's like being like that that guy with the cool two like custom rotary mag shotgun things from the Matrix that also makes like waifus. Like that's the one end of science, and then the other end of science is like the big mountain scientists, where it's like these guys are so clearly out of touch, probably not quite science 100 anymore, but you can tell based on what's happening there. Like there's some high level biology, and you can't like I don't know. Maybe you can be good at all the sciences. This is a weird argument to make. I understand. Like we're just not even like what are we even arguing at this point? But I'll just give a real life example. My first like kind of taste of science, where I was like, I want to do this for a living, is I was pretty good at science in my freshman year of high school. Obviously not with computers, as I already stated, but with biology. And I started doing. I wasn't in college level biology in ninth grade, but the teacher invited me to start taking the classes. Come sit in on the college level biology instead of your regular class, and then take like a study hall or something. And I wasn't able to do that every day, but I really soaked it up. She ended up giving me one of the textbooks, and that's like one of the greatest gifts I think I've ever received. Was just like a mint condition science textbook from school. Like I wanted to do that, but where it really kind of came to a head was where we did DNA electrolysis. We had like a professor from Switzerland come in, and he's asking all these questions on genetics, and I'm like, I don't like I hate this boomer habit of like telling a story, and I was like, and he said something and I said something so badass everybody clapped. Like I'm not going to hit you with that, but like essentially no one else was raising their hand but me, the person who probably shouldn't have even been there, was answering the professor's questions, and he made a comment about it, and that gave me a very big head. And in that moment, I was like, every insecurity I had was lifted, because I was like, I'm an egghead. I'm a scientist. I might be fat and girls might not like me. I haven't even tried to talk to them, but that was the impression I had in my head. It's like, and I had all this insecurity, all this like, all this baggage keeping me down. And in that moment, I was liberated, because I'm going to be a scientist one day. That was my cope. That was my first real cope. This is what I'm going to do. Other circumstances got in the way, unfortunately. My fly's been open this whole time. Let's zip that up. Holy Christ, that's funny. Okay, well, it's not getting cut. We don't cut here. Cuts don't happen in this show unless something insane happens, but it hasn't yet. So, you got to leave an opening. Holy hell. All right, so that was my first like experience, and I got like a lot of nobody really stopped me. Nobody gave me a realistic perspective. So I was believing I was the next Nikola Tesla. That was my idol, even though he had nothing to do with genetics. You think Mendel, you think Bohr maybe for the structure of the atom. No, I was obsessed with Tesla because science fiction science was still on my mind. But I still love those AT, C's, and G's. And, I still have a passion for genetics today, but I also know that I have no ground to stand on. I'm not the doctor I wanted to be. I don't have a degree in it. I would love to be working with genetics today. Because, in eighth grade, I had it in my head. I'm like, if we can fix DNA, all we need to do is fix DNA and we cure cancer. Cancer is damaged DNA. Tumors are a direct result of damaged DNA. If the instructions on how to build the cells are fucked, well, then we gotta repair that. That's all DNA is instructions on how to build cells. So I was like, we gotta fix those bodies' instructions. And if we could find a way to reduce telomeres, not only can we cure cancer, we can have physical immortality. I was talking about this as a 13, 14-year-old. So, but also I had no idea what copy paste was, and I had to get like TeamViewer and have my friend install Team Fortress Classic for me. Same year. So what level of science is that, right? Science is a poorly kind of written skill in the world of Fallout for that reason. But I still defend it because it's kind of like, it's a great skill to dump points into. It's like, wow, I can hack computers and occasionally pass speech checks. All right, that's an awesome skill. Some people say it's a dumb skill. Yeah, if you're like super combat heavy and you know the game, but if I'm exploring a game for the first time, I'm always going to invest into some kind of like security skill. Like an agent type class, I believe it's called in Morrowind or Daggerfall, where it's just like I want to be able to get into some inaccessible areas. But that's besides the point. If you want to build up your science skill in real life, I think the first thing you have to do is have a passion for it because it's extremely dry. I have little to no passion for engineering other than what it can do, but I have no interest in the process. Genetics, I'm very interested in what it can do, and I'm interested in the process. And I read scientific journals whenever I can, unless they're paywalled. Sometimes I've like when I was out of school, I'm technically a student, a part-time remote student right now. But when I was in school for the first time, like I was literally going in, I'm like, you know what, I'm bored. I don't feel like being in the house. Right, I'm gonna go just read some journals in the library. And that sounds like really gay, for lack of a better term, but that's how I like to spend my time. I have a vested interest in, or vested. I don't know if I don't have a vested interest. I'm using that word incorrectly, I believe, but I've always been very interested, sincerely interested in science and in the process and in what it can do. And when I kind of saw it being villainized, like I said, in years back, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good, because like I understand that the institution of science can be corrupted. Absolutely. I mean, you're talking like Ivy League schools here. Um, how different is that from like the Vatican like hiding religious information from people? How different is it when like a top level school's like, I'm only gonna teach people who can pay. And I understand that's how economy works. I understand that's how the market works. People need to be incentivized. I'm not gonna get political. I guess what I'm saying is I understand that everything is a necessary evil and is also an overcorrection for something else. All right, yeah. I can explain every bad or inconvenient thing that way. I get it. But, you know, I, can I have a little license to bitch too? I would read science in any form I could, and that's how I built it up. There is practical scientific knowledge, but I would say it comes in the form of engineering. If you want to like build bridges, you want to do models, you want to like I mean, I don't know. Is it an art or a science skill? Getting good with Blender, just getting good with like a program that it's like you got a guidebook, you got like a set rules, laws that you can study, and then you can kind of create something from there. That's an artistic skill, but I'd say it's a heavily science oriented skill. Maybe people that are pros with Blender would be like, okay, easy. You think about New Vegas too much. I know. I know. We all have our fixations. That's a little gross backwash there. I'm sorry. I haven't been very hydrated today. I'm leaving bubbles on my cup like a baby. Jeez, grim. uh, I'd love to recommend a book, but anyone you can get your hands on is the right one. Honestly, whatever you studied in high school is the best place to learn. The whole like JFK, John F. Kennedy administration, they had like switched from like this practical schooling of like having like I mean, I believe he made this, under like the guise or under kind of like the cause of saying like, oh, that's to make have a more polytechnic population. But I would argue that before people were a bit more well rounded. But I wasn't there to see it. People keep getting smarter and kinder as time goes on. As hard as that is to believe, I stand by that. People consistently get smarter and kinder. The backs the what do you want to call it? The flip side of that, I just thought of this, is that because we're nicer, I think we excuse worse and worse evils. That's the inverse of that. Uh, La Ciencia. Just start soaking it in. I used to spend so much time as a 14-year-old on Wikipedia. I read about everything. I read about proteins. I read about amino acids. I read about superalloys. I read about all the elements. I memorized the periodic table. It's not memorized anymore. Whenever anybody asked me what I wanted for gifts, I said books, practical books, science books, anything. Nature, anthropology, science, biology primarily. All of that is the field of science. And then also building it, like, Jesus. I mean, if you want to get into the computer end of it, the sky's the limit, and I don't even know how to help you because I'm barely competent in uploading these videos to, my computer and then the YouTube. So it's just like, I'm not your computer science man, but biology, I love it. And I'm not going to claim that I know everything. I'm eager to learn. I'm like a toddler that asks about everything. Be like, yeah, why? Well, why do we throw things in the trash? Well, then where does it go? Why? I'm going to be like that if you're a real scientist. If you say like, yeah, he talks a lot about science, but he's not a scientist. I know. And if you're a scientist, I'll get my notebook. I love to learn, and I don't like. I'm addicted to it. If you have something to tell me like that, I'm into it. And I think that mindset will build up science faster than anything. I kind of, it's so immature to be like, oh, my mom and dad should have. I mean, my mom and dad split up, and it wasn't really my dad, but it's a whole complicated story. Maybe I get a pass, but that's very selfish to say. I'm not serious. I had a pretty bad growing up, but what I'm getting at is it's weak to say if things had been different, I'd probably be some great scientist. It's not true. If things were different, I'd probably have a nice paying job and probably still not achieving much. or getting accomplishments stolen by a corporation or a head researcher. That's probably the grim reality if I got into science. So I'm probably not missing much, but I don't regret studying it. I don't like science because it could potentially make money. You can tell so many doctors did it for the money, not because they like healing people, and it's disgusting. I don't mean to like come down and be like mean like that, but if you got into medicine, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, whether you're anywhere in healthcare and you got in it for the money, that's gross. I would have rethought that. I mean, I get it. We were all young once, and I'm continually dumb to this day, and I will probably make decisions now that I will like cringe more than I've ever cringed at before in my 50s. I don't know, maybe. You got to assume anything can happen, right? But yeah, if you got into healing people for the money, that's bad. That's just my personal take. I'm not coming at you bad, but like that's a job that you don't do for the money. That job asks for a lot and it requires kind people. The reality is that most people do it for the money. So I guess I sort of get it. I'm being kind of a bleeding heart here and I'm sorry for that. All right, I thought out loud. I changed my mind. If you did it for the money, I get it. It's hard out there. Anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is that if everybody was doing what they were passionate about, God, could you imagine that world? I mean, I get that we're kind of somewhere between heaven and hell. As I put it in a past video, I think this is like one of hell's colonies. I think this is a hell colony. I could get into cosmology someday if the interest is there. But I love science. I would love to work in science. I want to know everything there is to know about science. So I know a ton about it, and I have no reason to. If you have that little, I caution away from using this because it's happened very few times, but we throw around the word autism and then I've offended somebody that like is a very nice person because they have a relative with it. But I still like to say it because that's how I talk. But if you have an autistic interest like that, if you have an autistic fixation, chase it. It's a superpower. Chase it. Use it. It's not, I mean, unless it's self-destructive. You know, nuances always, the yin and the yang. Yesterday's video went way longer than I wanted it to, way longer than I expected it to. It went by quick for me. Like I said, I was sleepwalking. So I think I'm going to dip out now. Today was the science video, and tomorrow I believe that leaves sneak. Oh, that's going to get weird. We're going to get creepy in the sneak episode, so I'll see you tomorrow. You guys have a good one. I love you, and, oh, I was almost going to ask you for a subscription. I won't do it. Even though I said it. I feel weird about saying it, so I'm heading out. All right. Love you. Bye-bye.